At exactly 6:40 p.m., he sat by the door. No one. In the sleepy subdivision of Oak Creek, Georgia, everything was predictable. The sprinklers came on at 5 a.m. The mail carrier arrived at noon, and the streetlights flickered on just as the sun dipped below the tree line. But on Elm Street, there was one routine that was more precise than any clock. Every single day at exactly 6:40 p.m., the screen door of number 402 would creak open. Out would step Arthur Vance. Arthur was 82 years old. A retired Marine with a back straight as a plank and a haircut that hadn't changed since 1968. He didn't sit in a rocking chair. He didn't have a sweet tea. He dragged a hard wooden dining chair onto the porch, positioned it directly facing the driveway and sat, hands on his knees, eyes forward, watching the empty road. The neighbors knew not to disturb him. The kids playing street hockey knew to quiet down. For exactly 1 hour, Arthur was on duty. I was new to the neighborhood. I didn't know the rules. And honestly, I was curious. It was a Tuesday in late October. The air was getting crisp, the kind of weather that makes you want to hurry inside. I was raking leaves in my yard, 2 houses down. I checked my watch. 6:39 p.m. I watched Arthur's door. Click, open. He stepped out, placed the chair, and sat. 6:40 p.m. on the dot. He wore a faded flannel shirt, but it was tucked in with military precision. He wasn't looking at the birds or the clouds. He was staring at the asphalt of the street. I walked over, dragging my rake. "Evening, Arthur," I called out, trying to be friendly. He didn't blink. He didn't turn his head. He just raised one finger, a silent command to halt. I froze. The silence stretched out, uncomfortable and heavy. After about a minute, he lowered his finger but kept his eyes on the road. "Not now, son," he said. His voice was gravel and rust. "I'm waiting." "Expecting company?" I asked. "I'm expecting a promise," he replied. I didn't press him that day. But a week later, I brought over a casserole. It's the Southern way to apologize for being nosy. This time, I went over at 6 p.m. before his shift started. He invited me into his living room. It was a time capsule. No TV, just a radio. And on the mantle, photos. Dozens of them. But one stood out, a large, framed portrait of a young man in an army uniform, smiling with the same jawline as Arthur. Video created by Subidi1M Rock. "That's Michael," Arthur said, catching me looking. "My boy. He looks like a good kid," I said. Arthur nodded slowly. He was. "Best damn pitcher the high school ever saw. Got a scholarship. But he turned it down. Said he needed to serve first. Wanted to be like his old man." Arthur walked to the window and looked at the driveway. "It was 2004, Arthur continued. He was deploying to Iraq. The morning he left, we stood right there on that porch. I was trying to be the tough guy, you know? The Marine dad. I didn't want to cry in front of him." Arthur's voice cracked, just a little. Michael threw his duffel bag in the taxi. He rolled down the window, looked at his watch, and yelled back to me. He said, "Don't worry, Pop. I'll be back before you know it. I'll be rolling up this driveway at 6:40 p.m. for dinner. Steak and potatoes. Don't start without me." The room went silent. I looked at the clock on the wall. It was 6:35 p.m. "He didn't make it back," I whispered. It wasn't a question. "IED outside of Fallujah," Arthur said, his eyes dry but hollow. 2 months later. "I'm so sorry, Arthur," I said. "We had the funeral," Arthur said, as if reciting a report. "Flags, gun salute, taps. Everyone told me to move on. They told me he was gone." He turned to me, his eyes fierce. "But a soldier doesn't break a promise, son." And Michael promised 6:40 p.m. "Arthur," I said gently, "that was 20 years ago." "I know," he snapped. "I know what year it is. I know he's dead. My head knows it." He tapped his chest. "But my heart? My heart is still waiting for the car to pull up." He looked at the clock. 6:13 p.m. "I sit there," Arthur explained, his voice softening. "Because if, by some miracle of God, the universe decides to rewind, if the world decides to give me 1 second of magic, and my boy walks up that driveway, I want him to see me. I want him to see that I didn't start dinner without him. I want him to know I was right where I said I'd be." At 6:39 p.m., Arthur stood up. He picked up his wooden chair. "I have to go," he said. "It's almost time." He walked out onto the porch. The wind was blowing cold leaves across the concrete. He set the chair down. He sat. He straightened his back. He fixed his collar. At 6:40 p.m., he looked toward the curve of the road. I didn't leave. I didn't try to talk him out of it. Instead, I walked over to the porch railing and sat down on the steps, just a few feet away from him. Arthur glanced at me out of the corner of his eye. Video created by Subedi Wanemrock. What are you doing? He grunted. Keeping watch, I said. Every soldier needs a wingman. Arthur didn't smile, but his shoulders dropped just an inch. He nodded once. And there we sat, two men in the quiet American suburbs, watching an empty road, waiting for a ghost that would never arrive, but keeping a promise that would never be broken.